All right. Hopefully this is working and you guys are there. There we go. Looks like we're back. Back up. All right, good stuff. All right, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and get Ken back on here. I just cannot believe that this is happening again. And I do apologize. I appreciate everybody's patience because this is as frustrating for me as it is for you. So I do apologize. Yeah, what did I do? What did I do to YouTube? All right, so we're down to the minimum that I can do on this here. Hold on, no. Okay. All right, let me send a text message to Ken so that I can get him back on the phone. All right. All right, welcome back, guys. Welcome back. Appreciate you guys sticking around. Looks like we definitely lost 3/4 of our audience. So
it'll build back.
Yeah.
It'll build back.
All right. Don't let them steal your joy. Yeah, Kathy. It's a little disconcerting, but hopefully it won't continue to happen. Okay. All right, so we're just waiting for Ken to come back, you guys. Since we're only down to one monitor instead of two, we are not going to be able to show all of the materials that I wanted to show, but hopefully once Ken gets here, it will be enough just to hear him talking about it. But, you know, I first heard about remote viewing myself back when I was a kid. Because I've always been interested in, you know, these kinds of strange subjects, you know, things that, wrong meeting ID. Okay, Ken. All right. Let's try this again. (396-406-014).
Let's hope so, David Geiger. This stuff will stop right after Trump is reelected.
Yeah, yeah.
I was saying that earlier today.
Copy invitation. So this, I believe that what I sent you, yeah. Sorry, Thomas.
That's all right.
396, not 369. 396 406 014. All right, sent. Ken, go ahead and jump in here. My mom's here. Great. She just got back from walking the dogs. Glad you're here, Mom. So, yeah, this is a subject that has a long and storied history. And the reason that I was most interested in it is because the U.S. government was interested in it. I was always interested in subjects like this, especially when the government knew that there was something to it, and they spent their time and their money in investigating it and trying to see how it could be used. Now, definitely, as I was saying earlier, you know, with the fact that this is something that can be used by, you know, private industry as well as by governments, I think that it also stands to reason that this could be used for good or for bad purposes. And we're definitely going to be talking with Ken about that when he gets on the line. But ideally, you know, I mean, I want to focus on the positive that can be done. I think that basically it doesn't matter what it is, you know. I mean, like there's a good and a bad side to everything. And here comes Ken. There we go. All right, Ken, are you there, buddy?
As far as I know.
Okay. Yes, you are. You are.
Excellent.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay, sir. So, Ken, for the audience, would you please just give us an introduction to who you are, and then we'll talk about how you started, doing this work.
Well, who I am is always evolving, just like anybody else, I guess. I'm disabled from another, one of the bad things that happens in life to people.
Yep.
Sometimes. Anyway, everybody has their own story, but that's why I'm not working. I've got a bad back. put it that way.
Okay.
But when I got involved in remote viewing, see, you were talking about having these knowing things ever since you were a little kid. Sometimes that's normal, because at least it's normal to me, because some of my earliest memories are when it was still okay for a child to stand up in the seat while everybody drove. You know, this is like early 70s, late 60s. All right. And I remember one time we were sitting at a light that had a turn light, you know, a turn arrow. There was nobody else around except there was one car in front of us. And I said, this guy won't turn. I don't know why I said it. It just came out. And we sat there through 5 lights. The guy did not turn. My father had to pull around the guy. And I had things like that happen all the time, you know, and things that are just kind of nonsense, don't really mean anything. You know, either way, your life's going to go on, whether the guy turns it or at the light or not, you know, because you know, whatever it is. But I read a book called Psychic Warrior by Dave Morehouse. And that really kind of reminded me of all of my experiences. And I said, you know, maybe there is something to this, you know, figure out what's going on, if nothing else. That was really what was going on. Is I wanted to find out what was going on within me. And let's see, 1998 it was. So I was about 30 years old. I already was a Christian. Went and got training from Lynn Buchanan on a weekend. And he is one of the nicest, smartest people on the planet. If we had like 7 billion Lynn Buchanans, that would be a perfect world, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, can you tell us who Lynn Buchanan is in regards to remote viewing?
Sure. He was a sergeant in the unit that you were talking about. I don't know that you know, that any DIA, CIA stuff involved. And if so, he hadn't said anything to me about it. And if so, he probably can't say anything to anybody about
right.
it. But let's just say that his work probably got to who it needed to get to, no matter who he worked for. But he was at Fort Meade. This is all public information. There's a number of buildings that just nondescript buildings. That's where they were. And some other people that had been at Fort Meade that I've since run into had asked me about, you know, hey, there's some buildings at Fort Meade nobody was allowed to go through. And one guy was an MP and told me I couldn't go there. And I would make sure nobody else could. And I had no idea what it was. And he said, could you tell me what these look like? And I went and did a search. And long story short, I said, well, these look very like the buildings. You know, I can't tell you. But anyway, you know, for sure. But he said those were the buildings. So that was Fort Meade, Maryland, where they were doing this. And Lynn was in a unit with a number of other people, and it's public, you know, it's public knowledge who was in it and who wasn't. I just don't want to go listing them all, you know, for their privacy.
Right.
But they're all over, like, in the books. So, you know, people that he lists in the books, like Joe McMoneagle is one of them. He's remote viewer number 1. So he's the first one that was apparently trained.
Really?
In this.
Like as part of this super soldier brigade?
Well, I wouldn't call it a super soldier brigade. That's knowing Lynn, he's more humble than that. But it's what it is it's really hard to explain what exactly it is, and it's even after all of this time, because there are so many nuances involved. I'm still learning. Lynn's probably still learning. It's one of those things that takes a weekend to learn and a lifetime to master, kind of like golf.
Okay.
You know, you know what to do, but doing it is the big problem, you know. But the general idea is you want to get yourself in a relaxed state of mind, no funny business going on. You're just supposed to say, okay, what's rattling around in my head that I need to forget? Yeah, the cat's messing with me. He keeps biting my foot. Okay. The cat is a cat, and so I'm going to set aside the cat biting my foot, whatever it is. And so that's sort of your conscious way of putting things aside so that it opens you up into your subconscious, and then that's where the action happens. And like I said, since that one session, I don't know if you've been able to look through it or, you know, put it up or not. But
yeah. I was
that,
able to
that
look
helps
through
the show.
it. Well, unfortunately, because of the way the setup is right now, I disabled anything that wasn't absolutely necessary for the program because I wanted to make sure, that we didn't go off again.
Exactly.
Yeah. But
I got you.
well, so can you tell us, like, did Lynn have any understanding or try to explain exactly how this works? I mean, you say the idea of, closing off your mind to outside things, clearing yourself, opening up. I mean, with the government doing this work, I mean, did they get any understanding about what it is? We just lost Ken. We just lost Ken. All right, I'm just going to let him know. Man. All right, guys. And it's showing me that 0 people are watching, so I don't even know if anybody's here. Can we get some...
5x5s? 5.
Yeah, phone dropped off, he says. Call him back in. Tell a joke. Well, 2 guys walk into a studio, and somebody says, "You're not allowed to talk about that on the air." And then they take away your program and kick you out. So, yeah, thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Glad you're here. Okay. All right. Looks like, Ken, we've got you back.
Hey, sorry, that might have been my fault. This phone, if you get close to it and you touch your cheek to it and wants to...
Well, that's actually good to hear.
Yeah.
That's actually good to hear because we thought it was more technical stuff. Okay, so that's good.
That's why I made a point to say it.
Absolutely. Okay.
Not a problem. Okay.
Not a
as
problem.
far as what goes on, Lynn talked a lot about that, and it's really the root of it is what's known as the subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
The part of your brain that's for sleep, dreams, that sort of thing. Now, explaining it in a way that you can understand is very difficult, just because there's so many different things involved. But the idea is, like I said, is to get all that stuff out of your mind so your subconscious mind works. And when you're doing a session, all you're doing is you have a pen and paper, and you take coordinates and you scribble on the paper. And then
Ken, when you say you take coordinates, are you talking about like a longitude and latitude, or it
can be longitude and latitude. In fact, that's what it started out with Ingo Swann, the artist. You probably heard that name if you've gone into remote viewing at all. I
have, and I want you to tell us about Ingo Swann for the audience, but continue with the process.
Well, I really don't know all that much about Ingo Swann myself. Lynn does, but I don't. I do know that he started using coordinate. It's called coordinate remote viewing because he was using latitude and longitude coordinates. So, are you there?
Yes.
Yes.
I am. Yeah.
Okay, just making sure I heard my phone buzz. But anyway, it doesn't really matter what kind of coordinates they are, as long as you know that they're coordinates. That's really the short answer to it. Because I've seen coordinates be, like 4 letters and then 4 other letters. For me, they're usually 6 numbers and 6 numbers twice.
Okay.
Each of the numbers meaning something. It'll be like the date, like what it would be today, 02/01/20. That would be the first coordinate.
Okay.
And the second coordinate would be your viewer number, and then the session number for the day.
Okay. Oh, wow.
What?
So you can. Okay. So that's very interesting to me, because every time I've heard somebody say coordinates, I always just assumed that it was a location. You're like somebody would say like a city or a state or a country.
That's the target.
Yeah. Oh, that's the target. Okay.
Okay.
Right. And this also takes us back to something Thomas and I were discussing earlier. We were wondering if when you're remote viewing, are you just looking at a place, like a location, or are you looking throughout time and space? Does it, is it as deep as that?
The short answer is yes, and it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Just yes, because you are looking through time and space. You are looking at a place or a person or a thing. It all depends on what the target is. If the target is, what's my mom up to right now? Well, then it would be what your mom's up to right now. If it would be what did Genghis Khan have for breakfast on his 30th birthday, then you would be going back in time and across the other side of the planet. So
now,
it really all depends on the target.
One more question, Ken, in regards to the coordinates. You said for yourself, it's generally a series of numbers. Is that
Right.
Are those the coordinates that you are given, or is that your interpretation of the coordinates? And when you say it's generally a series of numbers, does each remote viewer have a different way that they're receiving those coordinates?
Well, your coordinates are done, and the coordinates themselves, in and of themselves, are not important at all.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Lynn may have some other take on that because he can probably do something just, he's amazing. But I haven't seen him in a few years. But the coordinates are just a way for your mind to associate that target with that session.
Okay.
And that's really all it is. It's like a label that
All
you
right.
put on it. That's really all it is. It's for coordinates.
All right.
Coordinates, like I said, themselves are not important in and of themselves. Now, the only way that they might be important is if, they've got your viewer number on it, you did them. Well, if you had a great session or something, or it becomes important somewhere down the road, then they can go back and find, oh, okay, yeah, you did this, didn't you? Okay, what did you see? Blah, blah, blah. Talk about after the fact. But the thing that most people don't understand is when you are going into a session, the less you know about whatever your target is, the better. Because anything that you know is called pollution, and that's bad, because that pollution can be the grain of sand that your imagination takes and just runs wild with. And so you wind up with this fantastic session that is totally off base, even though all this is detailed stuff, it is completely wrong because you let your imagination run wild. That's the key.
All right.
Not letting your imagination get in the way.
I suppose that would be key to making sure that you're actually hitting the correct target with the coordinates that you've been given, because it wouldn't take much. I mean, I've thought about the idea of remote viewing before, and it seems like it would have to be extremely vague because my mind would fill in all the gaps.
Yeah, you'd have to be extremely hyper focused. Like you would have to be in such a state of not allowing anything in for you to actually, lock on to where those coordinates are, the ones that you're given, right?
Well, no, you don't really go view other people's sessions because of the nature of what you're doing. Yeah, I guess you can. I've never had an issue with that sort of thing. My experience has been that not been hyper anything other than open. That would be the most important thing. And the one thing that Lynn says is the most important thing about any given session is not to learn something about the target, but to learn something about yourself. Because if you learn something about yourself from a bad target, you'll know that much more from that bad target going forward and hopefully not make the same mistake the second time.
All right.
It's a learning experience.
And
that's important in going down the road as you remote view later on. All these experiences that you have, you can say, oh, that's valid, that's not valid. That was because of the cat spiking my foot.
Okay.
Back in 1976 or whatever, that sort of thing. So you kind of get over that. And that's where the Christianity and the remote viewing sort of meld, because the people that think it's demonic sort of have a point, and the people that think it's just consciousness and such, they also have a point. It's really a part of a bigger existence, and you're trying to sort through it. And that's kind of dangerous when you don't know what you're getting into. That's, I think, what the warning is from the biblical text about that people say, it's demonic. Well, yeah, no, but life is demonic. So,
Right. These,
you know,
we were saying earlier,
there is no place to draw the line.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
it all exists around us, and it's up to us kind of use discernment and sort through that. I just need to say thank you to Julia for freedom. Thank you very much, Julia. If you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat and tag me on it. Thomas, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah. I saw somebody in the chat. It moved away because I took my. Thumper Rose says, "Can the targets feel your presence?"
Well, that's another long question, or long answer. The short answer is yes.
Oh,
the short
wow.
answer is yes. It can. It can. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Just making sure because my phone, I don't trust it. But yeah, if you've got like, because people will do, some remote viewers will help police, missing persons. Well, when you get into that, you're going to get into some pretty unshady characters. By definition, I would say that's logical to assume. A nice person doesn't go around kidnapping children, for instance, that, we've heard about in the news.
Right.
And Trump is crusading it. Finally, I'm glad finally somebody is
very important.
Another story there. But anyway, the the point is that there's just so many different things involved, and when you're going after somebody who is evil, they're going to have evil associated with them, and so you're taking that on. You're basically walking in to fight Goliath as David. Is what you're doing, because especially early on when you don't really know what you're getting into as a beginning, type remote viewer.
Exactly.
Fortunately, I've had the experience of remote viewing. And I must say that I don't do active sessions anymore. I don't have to. I have these things that just come in and bother me. But I know where they're coming from more, and I know how to deal with them. So,
well, Ken, I
think that's, this can go as deep as you want to get.
Absolutely.
Believe me. And I'm trying to stay out of a lot of it just because of time, and it's just deep subject to talk about.
Ben Schwagel from the audience says, it should be stated that while remote viewing is an amazing ability, you are opening yourself up to attack from the entities that exist in that realm. It is dangerous and should not be done without training, and I recommend staying away from it if you are Christian. It opens a hole in your shield. And that's what Ken was getting at, Ben Schwagel. And this is another reason why I wanted him to talk about it, because he has gone through this training. Ken, can you tell us a little bit about the training that you went through in order to begin this this practice?
Sure. It's really not really all that much more different in like if you go to take a concealed weapons permit class, except it's 2 days instead of one.
Okay.
And there's no gun involved. But it's similar like that. It's half classroom, learning stuff, and then half doing. So, like the Saturday, you'll sit in class all day, and it's a long class, and you get kind of tired. But you start, learning all the terminology and all of the basics and stuff. And then the next day, you do 2 or 3 practice sessions with Lynn monitoring you. And it's his job, especially as when you don't know what you're doing, is to, number one, is select that are soft, a baby bear or something, just a kitten, something something that's really not going to be evil or good or anything in and of itself. Something mundane, I guess, would be the best way to put it.
Neutral.
Yeah, a neutral target that doesn't have a lot of emotional stuff to it. Which is kind of funny because I picked up on some emotions in my second target, the one I sent you. But there was some fantastic hits in that session.
Well, let's talk about that, because I'd really like to get a feel for both of ourselves and in the audience with the the idea of how it goes. When you started this particular session, what was the coordinates that you were given?
Well, again, the coordinates were just whatever the date was, and then my viewer number, and then the session number of the day. And so that's what you'll see. And if you got, like a 1-digit viewer number like Joe McMonagle does, it would be 1000001. However, 4 zeros and ones on each end. Because you were number one, target number one. The rest will be all zeros. But he may take coordinates another way. If you go to farsight.org or Farsight Press, I don't remember anyway. Farsight is the place to go for all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And their viewers will have different, coordinates that they use. The coordinates themselves really are not that important. It's just a means to an end. It's like a pivot point to get the door open to where you need to go.
So, I guess in that case, then, I mean, you said coordinates, and I'm thinking the coordinates is what you're locking onto with your mind to determine what the target is. But is that not the way?
No. What the coordinates do is they help you generate what's called an ideogram.
Okay.
And that's the scribble on the page that you see from my time. For the audience, you don't know, just chicken scratch is close. But what you do is you go, you make that mark, and then you go back and you describe what the mark is. It's right. It'll say like down, right, left, up, left, back, down, right, up, and whichever way it's going. Curve right, and you describe what it physically appears like, to the eye. Then you take your pen and you start at the beginning of where you started drawing, and just start tapping or feeling along that ideogram to determine if it is part of the ideogram. And
so this is you're doing this during the session? Like when you're in the state, when you're in the state of this remote viewing, when you're in the state of this, you're actually drawing and doing the coordinates blind almost, right?
Well, yeah, the right way to do it's double blind. That's the scientific method. Remote viewing is the only psychic discipline that is reproducible under double blind scientific conditions that I know of. It was also the first. There may be others that I'm unaware of, but that was the first one, and that was why I kind of decided that was what I would, do instead of going, and talking to some mystic or whatever, somebody with crystal balls. That's not going to help.
Did it freak you out?
I mean, what's going on?
Did you freak out doing when you got into this? Were you just like, oh my God, this is super special? This is, let's be honest. There's a very small percentage of people out there that know anything about this, and to know that you can hack into this and you can get into it. You say you don't
know.
Really? Okay. That would blow my mind.
You would. No, you would think so, and I can see where you would think so. But what you're doing is you're just drawing on whatever the emotion or the feeling or the color or whatever the descriptors are of the target. Let me back up just a little bit. You're not looking to name. You're not looking for nouns. You're looking to describe the target. That'll be in fact, if you're given a target, the best blind target would be somebody coming in, giving you the paper and pencil, and say the target for today is, and then they give the coordinates, and then say describe the target, and that is it.
Take us through actually you being given the coordinates, and then what you've seen, and then how you got to it, and then the process of verifying that information.
Okay. Well, what you do is you take the coordinates down, and as soon as you write that last coordinate, your wrist just jerks around. It just does. It's how it happens, and that's what makes the ideogram. Is you're just letting the body do whatever the subconscious tells it to do, because what Lynn explained, the conscious mind does not talk directly to the subconscious mind. It doesn't. Neither one talks directly to each other, but I think it does a little bit in my case. I don't know. Anyway,
can you define an ideogram for us?
The ideogram is just a drawing that, like I said, it's that chicken scratch type drawing that you make when you take the coordinates down. That's why I wanted to send you I know the audience can't see this.
Yeah.
But that's why I wanted to send you the session, was so you could see it all for yourself. And you know what I'm talking about. You see some scribbles on the page, those are the ideograms. And what you do is you'll retake the coordinates each time, and then you'll the first time, see, there's so many things. All right, let me slow down a little bit. The first time in a session when you take your coordinates, you scribble out this ideogram. It's just whatever the spirit moves you, however you want to say it. Your subconscious moves you. And then you go ahead and you investigate it, you feel along it, and you get a sort of an inkling. I can't really tell you the feelings and such. It's just a series of small impressions that you get. Say, this feels like land. This feels like water. Or this isn't right. Somebody made this. It's not natural.
Now,
basic ideas like that, and those are called gestalt.
Now, when you're getting these premonitions of whatever it is that the target is it simply mental pictures, or are you having physical sensations, or perhaps smells? Are you seeing things with your eyes? All
the above. Yeah, it just depends on the nature of the target and really what your subconscious feels like doing at the time. Your subconscious is like a 3-year-old. It won't, or a cat, or a woman. All right, it just does what it wants to do sometimes, and you got to figure it out. Okay, and I'm not trying to disparage anybody. I'm just saying,
Sure.
I mean,
well, hold on, Cynthia.
It'll show
Ken,
you.
Ken, just a second.
Yeah.
Cynthia, maybe you missed the disclaimer at the beginning of the program, but we're just talking about subjects here, and this is an open dialogue, and I want to know what you guys have to say about it and how you feel. But just because we're talking about a subject on my program doesn't mean that I subscribe to it or that I am promoting it. And I think that because these things exist in the world, it is interesting to talk about. So definitely, please, don't get the wrong idea. That's all. That's all I really want to say. But I want to know about Ken's experience as, having been a remote viewer from the perspective of the fact that he is a Christian. This is spiritual warfare. This stuff exists.
Yes.
The government.
Thank you for saying that.
The government has funded research into this. Therefore, I definitely want to know about it. So please continue, Ken. Continue.
Well, to that point, I can completely feel the audience. I've been on both sides, looking open-minded, and that's one thing that remote viewing will do, is it'll teach you to be open about ideas, because you could be wrong about something. You could have a strong inkling that you're right about something, but everybody's had a strong feeling that they're right and it turned out to be wrong. Mm-hmm. That's happened. People are not perfect. And so I just say, okay, tell me whatever the truth is. And the way I reconcile it is I go to God with it. I'm like, God, what does this mean? Or blah, 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 So I have that. No matter what happens, I go to God about it. I figure if I do that, then at least the worst that might happen to me is he tells you not, like I'm a child, a parent tells a child not to do something. What does a child do? Well, he's curious, so he goes and does it, and he hurts himself. He comes crying back to Daddy. Daddy says, well, I told you. Did you learn anything? The kid says, yes. That's kind of what's going on.
Can you get stuck in this state?
Yeah, you can. In fact,
what?
That's the odd thing about it is when I've gotten stuck in it, a couple times when I was doing a target, but it's just because it was something that kind of struck close to home to begin with, and was probably as much my conscious mind bothering me about something than anything else. The wild thing is I have not done a pen and paper session because I am a Christian. I have not done a pen and paper session since before 2008.
Sure.
It wasn't until after 2008 that I started getting these vivid daydreams. So I didn't even go in session, didn't take coordinates, didn't do nothing. And it's just that stuff just drops on me. I'm like, whoa, hey. Right. Like this last one that I called in about a few weeks ago about the BSV thing. Mm-hmm. On the January 9th, I was looking over technical stuff about BSB. And I was thinking, this stuff, why is it not higher price? Are people just that dumb? Are they, and this is just my internal stuff. So I'm not pointing a finger at anyone in particular. It's just how you talk to yourself. You wonder these things. And then this feeling came, it was like up my spine, to the base of my head, and, like the top of my spine. And it just grew and grew and grew. And I'm like, no, I was just wondering. I don't really care that much. And it kept growing and growing and growing. I'm like, why am I keeping thinking about this? And it kept growing. I'm like, all right, something's up. What in the hell is going on? And I'm looking around. I'm like, this only can be that it's going to blow up sometime soon. Well, as it turned out, about 12 hours later, I finally get a little bit of sleep, wake up, and the thing's up 30% from when I went to bed. And it wound up rallying in less than a week over 450%. And this was it started less than 12 hours after I had this episode. And of course, when it happened, then that just kind of caused a snowball effect, and you're like, you just want to get away from it. And I couldn't sleep for a while, and what with me, stomach issues is how it manifests. Just stress. Instead of some people get stress headaches.
Sure.
My stomach acts up. So, it's not pleasant, and after a while, you can beat it back. But I don't think it was anything necessarily good or evil or neutral or anything. It wasn't. I don't think there was any entity that was, entering me and messing with me or anything.
Well,
I just think that I was born more attuned to it to begin with because of my past and my childhood and some of the traumatic events that I've seen and some of the filters that I've had removed from.
Do you think it's hereditary?
It's very complex.
Do you think Do you think it's hereditary?
I don't know. It may possibly be, but it just seems from.
The reason I ask about this. The reason I asked that is because I have a friend who actually did have psychic abilities. His mother had psychic abilities, and then his son had psychic abilities. And then we would see this child do this at almost 8 years old, and it was pretty incredible. And I've heard that. Have you heard that this is almost like it's like
I've heard that there could be a hereditary component to it. Now, I would also say. Again, from Ben Schwagel, he says, having participated in Zen Garcia's studies, I've come to realize that what he's describing is actually the Nephilim demon spirits interfering. From your own perspective, have you felt like there has ever been an evil component that was trying to enter into your mind, or anything trying to affect you, or has this only been used in a neutral way?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I only use it in a neutral way because I'm just looking for information, what the truth is. I don't think there's anything evil about seeking truth. If anything,
absolutely
that's a good
not.
thing.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Is there like a particular is there like a particular time you do this? Like, do you do this like before you go to sleep? Do you do this like as soon as you wake up? What's like a good time? Because I want to do it. All right. I want to.
I've actually got an actual thing for you on this 6:30 p.m. sidereal time.
Sidereal time?
I don't know why. Sidereal. Sidereal time.
What does that mean? What is that?
I've never heard of that. What is that?
That has to do with time. Just go Google it. It's easier for you to Google and read it aloud than for me to.
Sure.
It has to do with where the position of the planets are in the moon. Basically, the Earth and the moon relative.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I need to say thank you to Carissa Hartunian, and then Social Observer has another question. Have you ever been able to remote view other timelines or the past? And if not, do you think your subconscious mind was controlled to serve an agenda?
Oh, son.
I love Social Observer. Some of the best questions on this channel. I really do appreciate it.
That's a good question, because that brings me to the Trump election thing. Did I send you that? Did you look at that? Where I posted about the 2016 election the week before it happened? The 303 votes. Anyway,
I don't know. We've had so many emails going back and forth.
Fill us in.
Just fill us
quickly. Yeah.
Well, it'll take a couple minutes to get the details, but
that's fine.
We were all wondering about the election. This is in 2016, November, and to be honest and open, I was going to give Hillary a chance. I was like, well, this was like a week before I had to vote, and I just figured I don't have to vote until the voting day, so I don't actually have to make my mind up until then. But I watched Trump give a speech, and it was about love. I watched Hillary give a speech, and that was when she doubled down on hating all Trump supporters, and that's when because I told you that, Adam. I was like, I will really, count me in, and you can just hate me because I'm gonna vote for Trump. You're gonna be like that,
mm-hmm.
and then if you just right about that much time, I go into a daydream. I just, I had made up my mind, and you were asking about if I hear anything. Yeah, I heard Trump, and I was like, well, okay, you got my attention, and I see these three numbers. There's a 3, a 0, and another 3. And the 3 goes into the 100 spot, 0 goes into the 10 spot, and that last 3 starts to go to the 1 spot and shimmers, and it gets pulled back to the home position. And then tried to do it again, and it shimmered and pulled back to the home position. And so I was like, that's got to be electoral votes. And they just said Trump, right? And so I said, okay, fine, I'll put this out there. I'll stick my neck out, and I'll post it to Facebook. So I did. That was on November 3rd, 2016. I can actually send you a link. I'd be doxing myself, but
it's okay. You don't have to. I believe you. I believed you.
Yeah.
I have a question. So when you're like, when you are.
Well, let me hang on that question real quick.
Okay.
Because this was about alternate timelines, and I'm almost there.
Okay.
But anyway, the 303, remember he had 306 that they cast for him, 306 electoral votes. He only received 304 because 2 electors didn't vote for him. Now, that last 3 that came in, remember he got 306 cast, he received 304, actual electoral votes, and I'm seeing 303, but then that last number is shimmering. So I'm thinking that I was looking into multiple timelines at the same time.
Ooh.
That's why that last number could not be defined. It was, are they going to decide to vote for him or not? That he is a Donald Trump elector. Is he going to vote for Donald Trump or not? So probably what was going on was several electors probably had a clue that they were going to have to vote for this guy.
Wow.
And they weren't sure where they sat, whether they were going to say, this way or the other way. That's the closest I can come, to really pinpointing something like that. But it's enough for me to say, yeah, there's multiple timelines that can happen.
That's fascinating. Can you tell us, maybe you said that remote viewers will sometimes help the police. I can see immediately how having this as a skill would be very helpful in law enforcement. Do you know if this is something that happens regularly? Or does this just happen when maybe they get to the end of their wits and they need to solve a case and they say, why not? Let's go ahead and just try whatever.
It goes on a lot more often than you would think nationwide. Police departments are not going to be real fond of letting the public know that they're looking at psychics. It's what we call the giggle factor, and it's always going to be there because people are just not. A lot of people are not going to have an open mind enough to say, okay, it exists. There's something to it, because it does. That's been proven again and again. And by others besides just me. All over the place. Q.
Well, yeah.
We could get into that.
I was thinking
that's way beyond us. No, Q. Go ahead. I can get all over the place.
Well, I was going to
I
say
can get all over the place.
we've got a lot of people in the audience who looks like they've had some experiences with this, and I want to get your experiences, guys. I mean, this is definitely something that we want to talk about. But before we do that, I want to get at least one more real life example from you, Ken. Was there ever something that was completely unexplainable that was remote viewed and then proven to be true that you know of, like in your own life or with Lynn, does he have like a regular class that he teaches? Is this just something that he taught
Lynn,
you specifically?
Yeah, well, yeah, he for a while he had regular classes. The man's almost 80 years old, so he's retired from that and doing some things in the related field at his own pace. Goodness gracious. Yeah, I mean, as far as things that are proven, it just depends on who you want to ask, where you want to look. There was something there was something I was reading about, and I wish I remembered it. It was just the other day too. Something that Joe McMoneagle had written in one of his books about 2019, and it's true. I wish I remembered what it was now, but my life has been so filled with these different things. But my own life has been filled with things that have come true, like the Trump election. I mean, I was off by one electoral vote.
Mm-hmm.
Friday.
That is fascinating.
I mean, who was closer? Nobody.
Right.
And I have no explanation for it. I didn't ask for it. I didn't remote. I was just sitting here. I mean, just sitting here thinking about the election. If that's evil, then I mean, come on. And then we're all going to be susceptible to this sort of thing anyway. It's just a remote viewing and having the training kind of lets you know where this is coming from. And by being a Christian, I know how to fight it. And that's probably the best way to put it. But I do say, if you're not in the remote viewing already, I probably would not go there.
Sure.
And it's because of this, all this stuff. And the odd thing about remote viewing is it has pushed my spirituality so much closer to God, because I see so much of a bigger picture all the time, and I'm like, this fits too. I see it exactly, or things that that don't compute at all in the logical mind. And when you look at it from the spiritual side or your gut feeling, you always go with your gut when the logical part fails, or say when logic fails you. You always go with your gut because it's never wrong.
Right. Social Observer says, have you ever been able to remote... Oh, no, I'm sorry. We already asked that question. Mohawk Girl says, I heard the U.S. government remote viewers in the Revolution and paid native seers to look at what the British were going to do on the battlefield. Wow, that's going back to the Revolutionary War. That's pretty incredible. Faithful Anons, have you heard of that, Ken?
No, because remote viewing as a... science hasn't really existed until probably Ingo Swann. They didn't have the lexicon like the guy from
right.
The other week was talking about.
Right.
Same thing. They didn't have the tools. They didn't know. Freud and all these psychologists hadn't been born yet. They didn't know. It was 250 years ago almost.
All right, and Faithful Anon says, God bless Ken, fight, 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 where we go one, we go all. Thank you for that, Faithful Anon. And TikTok sent a sticker, which is pretty cute. Thank you, TikTok. All right, you guys, I'm going to open up the phones because I want to hear what you have to say about remote viewing, whatever your personal experience might be, because this is where it gets really interesting. So we're going to throw the phone number up on the screen. And I am going to put the phone number and the meeting location into the chat. So we've got the meeting in the chat, and then we've got and I want to say, LJ, thanks, buddy. Thanks for continuing to give me the updates. So there is the meeting numbers for New York and LA, and then the meeting ID 396-406 and 014. Okay, great. So there were so many things that came to my mind while you were talking that I blanked on. But so basically, you're saying that if you're not already trained in this stuff, that you don't recommend people getting into it. I'm assuming that's because of the kind of precarious nature of what this could mean. You know, I mean, if somebody is not fully wearing the armor of God, then they're definitely going to have some trouble with this. We do have our first caller. And caller, go ahead and mute your stream in the background because we're going to be bringing you in. Jennifer Gadbaugh says, if it has pushed you closer to God, why don't you recommend it? That's a great question, Ken.
That is a great question. But I guess the short answer, the pushing's already been done. I've learned that, I've learned the lesson involved. And I just don't want to bring it on myself anymore because it is so physically draining. Okay. Imagine not being able to sleep more than an hour and a half, 2 hours a night for 3 weeks.
That would do it to you.
That's kind of how I was after this whole BSV thing.
Okay.
And it was just like, I got it, stop it, And it just, for some reason, it keeps eating at you.
All right.
And it kind of builds on itself. And part of it is me, because I have PTSD from a couple of violent incidents in the past. I was not ready for.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I think that my case is a little more, how to put, off the deep end of scale of the bell curve than most.
Sure.
Just due to circumstances and the fact that I think I was born with psychic ability. Now my mom is the same way. She's got some psychic ability, but hers seems to be a little more hit or miss. But
well,
is what it is.
Ben Schwagel says that we should tell you about Zen Garcia. If you're not familiar with Zen Garcia, he's been a guest on the program before. He's done some excellent scholarly work with many books that have either been in or out of the Bible, also some extra biblical texts. He's going to be on the program here in the next couple of weeks. But caller, you're on the air. Can we get your name for the audience?
Yeah, sure. It's Hater Proof again, Rick.
Hey, what's up, Hater Proof? I saw that it looked like you were remote viewing some stuff. What were you saying, dude? There were so many comments. I didn't see them all.
Well, I was trying to do a little remote viewing myself because I find it extremely interesting. And tomorrow, I don't know this because I'm not a hack and I'm not into your guys' business or anything like that, Red, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But tomorrow I saw you and I saw Thomas getting into a maroon-colored SUV, and it was like an Explorer or some type of Jeep maybe, or some type of vehicle that's like an SUV, and you guys are going somewhere tomorrow. And I saw you drive down a country road to where there's a T in the road, and I saw a street sign. And the street sign is bent, like the wind had blown it to the right? And it's one of those rounded, old, rusty, like green, old-style, like white lettery street signs, and it has a black post. And it sticks up right out of the grass, and it comes right to a T. And you're going to go left. That's where your directions would take you, but instead you took a right because I told you that. And there's a reason for that, and I have no idea why.
All right.
But maybe you'll see somebody, or maybe it'll prevent something, or
all right.
I don't know.
Well,
but then I saw you, but then I saw a bunch of people crying like afterward, or I saw people concerned with the look on their face, and then I saw you not getting into the SUV at all.
Well, you can bet that I won't, especially after that. But Ken, have you or anybody that you've been associated with doing this work, have you remote viewed something that was then used, the information used to avoid a tragedy?
Well, yes and no. Well, I'll go ahead and get a little bit into what happened in 2008. I got shot by a gang, kidnapped and shot. There was a series of gang attacks in the town, and without getting into details and naming names, I saw an address come up that I was going to deliver to, And as soon as I saw the address, it's just a normal address. You know, it wasn't a very good part of town. It was a normal address. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end. And long story short, I ignored it, and I got a bullet in the back for it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I cannot tell a wilder story than is my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a lot of things like that. And after that, I was like, okay, you know, I could have avoided a horrible life had I just listened to myself or listened to whoever was trying to warn me. Would a demon try to warn you not to get shot? I don't think so. You know, I think they'd want to see me suffer as much as they can. So they wouldn't warn me. And so I think it's just, you know, and there was no, you know, I'm not sitting there in the middle of the pizza place. You know, I was going to school and just needing to keep bills paid.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be sitting there in the middle of rush hour doing remote viewing on the table, you know, with coordinates and drawing and stuff,
Sure.
right? And so it was just, it came to me, and I'm just like, well, you know, I've got a gun, but whatever. And
now,
so I went.
Somebody said something about, you know, getting shot. I want to be perfectly clear that what happened to you, you were the victim of a crime. You were not putting yourself into a situation where you might potentially find yourself with a bullet in the back. Someone committed a horrific crime against you, and you were victimized. And it wasn't because of, you know, you were hanging out with the wrong people. You were in the course of doing your job, and someone victimized you. Okay, just so that everybody's clear about that.
Did you see
it I wasn't trying to go and get the loan shark, you know, to give me money or nothing like that.
Right.
Did you see it before that it happened, Ken? Did you actually like envision it? Did you actually like see it in your mind or see it otherwise, or could you almost smell like an adrenaline or an ionized air before it actually happened? And I don't mean per se like, you know, from the adrenaline or from the, you know, fight or flight or the wanting, like the adrenaline in your body. I meant just like almost like a premonition, like a kind of like a adrenaline.
that was the hair on the back of my neck standing up when I looked at the address.
Okay.
And
yeah.
And the thing is, you know, I had so much pressure on me for material stuff. You know, you don't make much money delivering pizza, and I was just trying to keep the bills paid. So I was going to study nuclear medicine, in fact.
Okay.
So this was just a stepping stone, you know, to better things that I wasn't able to do because I can't. You know, I'm ambulatory. I was shot right in the lower back, broke my hip, and I had to run naked in freezing weather. This is January 4th. They stripped me, shot me, left me in a field to die. I remember lying there looking at the clouds, kind of a dark, cloudy, you know, nasty-looking night, and said, Lord, I am too damn stubborn to die like this. And so I kind of move a little bit, get up, and I see they're jumping into my car, and they're pulling around a trailer. You know, this is after I'm shot, and I mean, not anything I'm imagining. They pulled around a trailer and were out of view, and so I doubled back because I had started running away with a bullet in my back. And they pulled away around that trailer and out of sight. And so what I did is I turned around and doubled back to where they just were, figuring they would not look for me where they had just been. And sure enough, I looked around the corner of the trailer, and they were driving away, and I saw a couple of guns pointing out. They were going to shoot at me as I was running. Keeping a cool head after having been what I went through, you know, I was pretty blessed.
I'd say it's
good. I don't know. It's just.
Yeah, I'd say somebody was definitely looking out for you. I'm glad that.
Do you have plans to go somewhere tomorrow, Red, with Thomas? Just by chance? I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah, nowhere in particular, and I don't have a maroon SUV that we would be driving in. But you know, if somebody, you know, if somebody shows up, you know, offering to give us a ride, you can bet that we won't be taking it. Well, listen,
good,
hater proof. Thanks for your call, buddy. We got a bunch of people waiting, so.
It's gonna be John Elway, and he's gonna be driving a slow white Bronco.
That's right. At the end of a T in the middle of a country road, exactly. And he'll have nothing. And he'll get out and get an autograph, exactly. He'll have nothing. Or he'll run into Trump, probably. No doubt.
I'll stay in the city.
Swig of orange juice. There you go.
That's right.
All right.
All right, guys. Where we go, one we go all, man. Take care, you guys.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Later, Thomas.
All right, later,
good
man.
seeing you,
Bye-bye.
buddy.
You too, Bubba.
All right, awesome. Hater-proof, never a dull moment. Okay, 1 infinite 0. 1 infinite 0, you are on the air. It looks like we don't have a microphone yet. 1 infinite 0, I'm going to move on to the next caller until you get that microphone.
1 infinite 0, hey, we can try semaphore.
There we go.
Try semaphore.
1 infinite 0, are you there?
That's me. So sorry. There's a bit of a lag on my end.
No problem.
Doing good.
Thanks for your call. What's your question or comment?
I just kind of wanted to reach. Oh, there I am. Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to say that I can totally empathize with Ken here. That is your name, right, sir? I kind of just joined in a little ago. Yeah. Thank you for coming out and talking about this, because things of psychic nature can be extremely, they hold a heavier weight sometimes when it comes to the weight that they can put on the soul and the mind. Like, I totally and completely feel you on that. I've been that kind of sensitive individual my entire life, and I've had shit just pop into my head that I don't
It's
want.
exhausting,
Absolutely.
isn't it? Isn't it exhausting? Yeah.
And
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. It's usually stuff that, you know, when people say, oh, I'm psychic, it's like, I wish I could know the lottery numbers, or I wish I could do something useful. But the information that you receive, at least for me personally, I wish it were more fun stuff. It's never really stuff that I want to know. And I just feel there. And I wanted to just say thank you for, because I know that there's a stigma about this when I try to tell people about my psychic experiences, which I won't go into here. I know you have a lot of callers. There's a stigma where people just think you're crazy, but amazing things happen, and humans are amazing creatures of God. And just thank you for coming out and telling your story. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you for the call. That's very sweet. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It means a lot, because, you know, it's really why I came on, is because I have seen so many truths just go unsaid in my life. And, you know, there's neon signs pointed, and everybody just acts like it's not there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you doofus, you know, it's on your foot.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever the case is, you know. No, I don't see that. Yeah, well, no.
Yeah, there was one question.
It's frustrating. It is. It's very frustrating.
There's a
I appreciate the thought very much.
people are
I
asking,
can identify with it.
and you're saying that it just puts you at extreme risk. And I would say that, like, people should be cautious about this stuff. But when your heart guides you to do something, or you're given information from, you know, what I'd like to think of as the one infinite creator, or the infinite intelligence, sometimes you don't have a choice about whether you're going to know a thing. And the biggest lesson I've learned with those abilities is to trust your gut, because more often than not, when I don't trust my gut, I end up kicking myself in the butt afterwards, going, damn, do that thing. And now the person's hurt because I didn't tell them about it.
I think that's an excellent point. You know, I mean, I've talked about this on the program before. You know, animals clearly have, a sixth sense. I mean, they can sense when things are going to happen. People have the exact same thing, but I think we've been taught to ignore that. And, you know, people hear, they hear the word psychic or, premonition, and people immediately go woo-woo. But I think that it actually is a part of our sense and our sensory organs, but we have just suppressed it, or maybe we have had it suppressed by these, by our leaders, by the people.
We've had it suppressed. It's been there.
Yeah,
yeah. It's the pineal gland in your brain. That's where the center of it is.
Fluoride calcifies on it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Gee, 1946.
Yeah.
Is that a commie conspiracy for you there, Mandrake?
Well, it wasn't
Dr. Strangelove.
My very first, mind-shattering psychic experience that, I was a young atheist at the time, right? That completely obliterated how I could reconcile that something amazing like that could happen, and that there couldn't be something more than what we're taught. That we're just
Can I ask you something? Let me ask you something, though. what does it feel like spiritually when you have some psychic thing that happens and it all comes to fruition? What does it do for your spiritual picture overall? And that's kind of a broad question, but open-ended for you.
In a little box. I know that there are other callers. I appreciate your time. If for me, it kind of feels like, those magic eye posters from back in the 90s where you have to it feels like that, but on an internal level. I believe Ken mentioned something about that going up from the top of the spine up through the head. That's physically how it feels, but spiritually it feels like suddenly having I don't know, like a puzzle piece being put in. Like there's
exactly right. I was going to say that's exactly what I've run into is whenever and they build on each other. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No,
it's okay. Say, they build on each other. They build on each other for me anyway. They build on each other, and it gets more and more pieces fit into place. And where I used to say, look at this piece, and I would like, what in the name of Tom Hill could this be for? And then something happens, and I'm like, that's what it's for. Duh.
Right. You just
it's so clear.
Sort of assume that it'll all work itself out because you can drive yourself crazy overthinking that stuff and just let the universe sort of take control. But thank you so much.
Hey, thank you for your call, 1-Infinite-0. Appreciate it.
Have a great night.
Yep,
thank
too.
You. Yeah, thank you. Great call.
Yeah. Let me go through a couple of these thank yous to the audience for the super chats. Demunker says there was a former Clowns in America guy on YouTube, and he says his remote viewing guy found shocking goings on under the Getty Museum. And they're asking if you can verify this. This would, I think maybe already the fact that we've given that much information, that's going to pollute it. But I mean, is this something that you've heard about?
Well, that's something, yeah. And in fact, I think the numbers are somewhere around 100,000 people.
Oh, wow.
What is, yeah.
Okay.
All right. All of this is going to, get upsetting because I kind of have a feeling what's behind it, and it is Satan. Mm-hmm. And all of this stuff, that Q says will put 90% of people in the hospital, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. I think that's a low number, really, because if people really understood fully the depths of what people can do to each other for money or, for power or whatever reason, it's beyond sick. These people are Satan's minions is what they are. And I'm not exaggerating at all. If I could just run in and kill all the bad people and I die too, I would be great with that because that would mean all the stuff stops,
right. Right.
Not that I'm some hero or anything, but it would be, if I were ever in that position, your soul would know what to do, even if it meant your death. It's that much of a big deal.
Okay. Ben Schwagel,
and it cannot be overstated.
Ben Schwagel said, we do have guardian angels watching and reporting on us to God as things happen, and they or the Holy Spirit sometimes try to warn us of dangers. Okay, that's an interesting explanation. Thanks, Ben Schwagel. Joe Martinez says, keep doing the good work. We have a huge win now with Brexit. That's right. Good stuff, Joe. Son of a Green Card said, I'm a firm believer in knowing the knowing and listening to the voice of the Holy Spirit. Ignoring it can have consequences. That's absolutely right.
Yes.
And then Cindy S. said $10. Cindy, I don't know if, I have a feeling that you were trying to say something else, but it said $10. So maybe you can tag me in the chat and I'll try to get a look at it. Let's go on to the next caller. Next caller. You're going to have to go ahead. Everybody, remember to mute your stream so that we can get you without hearing that in the background. And caller, I just unmuted you, but it looks like you muted yourself. Caller, you unmute yourself, caller. Are you there?
I wish I could do that to the cat. Oh, man.
Okay, we're going to try one more time. Caller, you're on the air. Can we get your name?
Hello? Hi, is this Red Pill?
This is Red Pill, yeah. You're on the air with me and Thomas and Ken.
Hi there, gentlemen. This is Elizabeth from Southern California.
Hi, Elizabeth.
I want to really thank you for bringing the subject up. Those of us that are, I just want to call it sensitive, because we are all sensitive, but I guess I want to say those of us that are more sensitive have been ridiculed our whole life. And for me, it's personally hurtful because I consider myself a Christian first and foremost.
Right.
And I have always been taught to follow the Holy Spirit. But these things are there, and they're very, very real. And as for myself, I've had to literally purposefully suppress these gifts because when they manifest, I have suffered so much ridicule because of it that it's basically sent me underground, you know. And I work in a scientific field and have been in this my whole life.
Oh, goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. So you really can't.
If you were an artist, it'd be different, like Ingo Swann. You know, they're like, he's an artist. So, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and Ken, I so much enjoy listening to you talk about this because it does affect your soul very, very deeply because you can, or I want to say, let me just go by me. I can slip into the ethers very quickly if I choose to. So I have to put up those protective walls. I have to call in, you know, my protective spirits. I don't know if you want to call it my relatives, my angels, those that have passed on. I know that they're there, and I can call them, and I feel them when they come. Because what's also in that ether, and you know, Ken, what's in that ether, is the darkness, too. But the beautiful thing is, there's more of the good spirits in the ether than the bad spirits in the ether.
This is what really. Go ahead and finish.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Ken.
I was just saying this is what really gives me hope when all this dark to light stuff from Q. It's really my last hope for having any sort of a life that's not just totally down in the dumps about how people are stupid and how they just ignore what's there. Here I am telling them all, nobody's listening. And I've had this thought about, when I'm judged, what am I going to say? God's going to say, how many people did you help? And I'd say, Lord, I didn't help anybody. He said, why not? Well, nobody wanted to listen.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about it for me is that, I really resonate with what you're saying, caller, because I have had times in my life where, I have felt that I knew something was about to happen, and the first thing that I thought was, well, if I tell somebody that I had that premonition, then they're going to ridicule me. They're going to make fun of me. They're going to tell me that I'm crazy, But I really do believe that, we are, I've said this before, we are spiritual, energetic beings with a physical body. And I don't think that we ever lose that connection back to source, back to God. And I do find it highly probable that we are able to receive information from God and from the other side when it is necessary for us. And, and like I said earlier, I think that we have the ability, we all have the ability to do that, to tap back into that, and that it's never left us, but it's just been suppressed. And we've been taught to not feel that, to not accept it when we feel that information coming through. And I don't think, I think that in an effort to, to define it, or for maybe people to ridicule it, that's when they go back to making fun of it or pretending that it's not something that's real. But I do actually think it's real. I want to go ahead and give us one more thought. We're going to move on to the next caller.
Well, I want you to be able to go on to the next callers, but okay. I just really would like to speak directly to the audience because I did see some of the things that were going on in the chat. Please keep an open mind. Please do not fear those of us that have this ability because more often than not, most of us are very gentle, deeply spiritual, God-loving people. And, it really hurt me to see some of the comments. You know where I'm going with this.
Sure.
It's done out of ignorance.
You're not demonic. We're not
fear
demonic.
and ignorance.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
I just want to end it on that.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your call, and thank you for having the courage to call in. And Thomas is going to say something, and you can take that off the air, okay?
Okay.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I was just gonna say that the first rule of being like even a YouTuber is just don't ever read the comments because people are they're gonna bash you. So I quit looking at them. So if you leave a comment, maybe the first 5 comments I might look at, but other than that, to hell with it. I'm not even gonna acknowledge it because it's just there's so many trolls. So again, it's just, and a lot of it is the dissonance, cognitive dissonance. Like you just don't want to believe it. You say this is witchcraft, but it's really not. It's really something quite beautiful. It's something.
It's a part of the human condition. Is what it is.
Sure,
yeah.
And I believe
just like anything else.
We all have it.
Wouldn't
you say that, Ken? We all have it.
Yeah, we all have it. It's like when you're thinking of a song and you turn the radio on and it's playing. Well, if it's a popular song that's playing all the time, that's one thing. But you turn something on, turn on the radio station, and something from the '90s or the '80s is on that normally isn't, or whatever, and you're not what you were thinking about, and it comes on. Or you've heard deja vu, women's intuition, all of these things. It's all the same, bigger dome there. It's all the big tent. Little tables around it, but they're all under the same roof. And to say that doesn't happen is just denying yourself, because we've all had a feeling that something's going to happen, and it did. Even if it's something insignificant, it happened. There it is. How do you explain it? Well, I can't. Well, then look and see what you can find.
Thomas?
Sure, yeah, I was going to say something about, I think somebody misconstrued what I said about comments. I read the chat. I don't read the comments that are left under my videos. I always read the chat, my friends, when we go live, but I do not read the comments on my videos because there are people that are paid trolls that go out there and they try to smash you. So that's what I'm talking about. I just want to clear that up.
Yeah.
My bad, Ken.
Now, Social Observer said there was a remote viewer on Coast to Coast AM who said that Nibiru, Planet X, is real. Wants to know if we agree. I believe that it's real, but only because it was reported multiple times by astronomical organizations.
Is Earth to Nibiru? Is that the same thing? And Planet X is all.
Planet X is supposed to be a planet that is on a long elliptical orbit around the sun, and so at certain points,
way beyond Pluto.
Yeah, way beyond. So, do you know anything about remote viewing the presence of Planet X?
Not directly. It's not something that I've done. And there's another thing to keep in mind too. Any remote viewer that would be listening or would, let me back up a little bit. Anybody who might ever remote view from here on out, who is watching and hearing this, or any other program like this that's discussing specific things, it pollutes them forever. Now there's ways around that, just passage of time, and not really expecting to have that as a target or whatever. That all kind of rolls into it. But this pollution thing, it's really a big bugaboo in remote viewing, because, like I said, the imagination can take something and run with it, and an inexperienced viewer is not going to know the difference.
All right. Now, Brian Beller said, I have it too, and I feel that there will not be a debate with POTUS and the Democratic nominee. That's very interesting. Well, we've got the next caller on the line. Caller, you should be hearing me speaking right now. So, caller, you're on the air. Can we get your name for the audience?
Me?
Yep, you. Yep.
Okay, yeah, this is Liberty Thunder.
Hey, Liberty Thunder, how are you, buddy?
Cool name.
Hey, good. True Reporting, I subscribed to your channel and been watching you here lately, and always glad to talk to you, Red Pill. Glad to talk to you, Ken.
What's up, my man?
I got two things that I'd like to talk about. Number one is the subconscious spiritual aspect of it all. I went to an accredited college for being a subconscious specialist, learning hypnotherapy, NLP, handwriting analysis, all things basically subconscious. And I can tell you that the mind fears the unknown, and people like to demonize the unknown.
Yeah.
And because that's one of the first things, because out of fear, the brain will actually lie to itself to try to make sense of something. And so if they have the worldview of Christianity, which I do, and they haven't learned anything else, their first go-to would be to demonize it. It would make sense to do that. It's only because they haven't learned enough about the topic. And listen, when you get into a trance, because I'm assuming, Ken, that you have to get into a trance, right, to do the remote viewing?
No, I don't get into a trance. It's just a normal, relaxed state of mind. It's like,
okay, yeah. Well,
it's like after you get home from work and you're tired, you're watching TV and not really thinking about much in general.
Exactly.
Like
That's one of the things I wanted to address about the subconscious and the spirituality of it all, is because you actually slip through the particular brain waves that you need to go through in order to access certain parts of your mind as you're going to sleep and as you wake
You're
up.
talking about theta waves and such?
Yeah. You actually slip into the brain frequencies that your mind needs to operate on a different level. You know, when the church or when the preacher's saying he's in his spirit, you know, being out of the flesh, he's actually in a particular brainwave, you know, to where the conscious mind hasn't fully taken over. He's actually able to stop talking and start listening, and then start relaying, you know, the information he's getting or the download that he's getting from God or whatever. And it's
People
the
have
same
2
thing
years
you ever
and one
noticed
mouth
in
for a
church.
reason.
Huh?
I'm sorry. The delay messed me up a little. I just saying people have 2 ears and one mouth for a reason.
Exactly. And if you ever notice in church, a lot of people will fall asleep. It's not because they're bored to death. If I was a group hypnotherapist or hypnotist, I would do the exact same thing that the preacher does or the sermon people do in church. I would get them to stand up, sit down, sing, stand up, sit down, sing. I would get them to get all this stuff done and then sit down and relax for a while. And, you know, so basically it's a hypnotic modality, the church service is. And that's to help you get out of the flesh and into a brainwave where you can actually start listening to the spirit.
I totally agree with that, bro.
That's fascinating.
I totally agree with that, bro.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah. So that's just all the people out there is trying to demonize everything that's been going on. You all have a subconscious. You all use it. You all access it. It's not the devil taking it over. It's just that you're demonizing something you don't understand. That's just something natural that people do stuff.
Bro. Exactly.
So that's the first thing that I want to talk about. The second thing I want to talk about, and I'm hoping Ken might be able to help me with this. I've been wondering about this since 2002 or whatever this happened to me. And this is when I first started learning how to do things with my mind. And that's why I actually took this subconscious course, is because I wanted to know what's happening with me and everything like that. But I had read a book from the 50s about how to do self-hypnosis or something like that was written back in the 50s. And I found out at a used bookstore. And I actually went through the things it told you to do, and I did it. Well, I was laying down relaxing and closed my eyes, and I imagined I was flying through space, and I was passing stars left and right. It was amazing. And all of a sudden, I started to feel like this gravitational pull, like I knew something in space. There was an area in space that was really interesting. And I couldn't help but to be drawn to it, and the closer I got, the more I started getting sucked into it. And finally, I got sucked into it, and it went all the way into this person's mind. I can actually see through his eyes. He was wearing BDUs, and his legs were propped up on a desk. He had a picture of a woman in a red dress on his desk in a cubicle, and he was talking to me. He was telling me to get away from this area. You know, we understand you don't mean any harm, but get away before we do start to... He gave me a warning, basically. It was a friendly warning. He said, but if we continue to warn you, it won't be so friendly. And I was wondering, and I could tell this dude, I almost knew everything about him being inside of his his mind as he was inside mine. And I wondered if Ken maybe was aware of any programs the government had or something like that could do something like this.
Well, Looking Glass could do that and far more. If you just heard a pop, I've got a firecracker, burning on the fireplace.
Go ahead.
Project Montauk, Project might as well be called that, really. But Project Looking Glass, there's so much. You need to read up on that. That's what I think is drawing Q is drawing from. And the thing is, I hope he's just using information already gathered. I hope it's not an ongoing type of thing, because every fiber of my soul is saying Project Looking Glass is horribly evil. And in fact, they've told us about it. If you've seen the movie Contact, that's what it looks like. That's exactly what it looks like, as far as I know, except for I don't know if it got the gantry up top or anything like that, but it's got the three things moving around, the three circles, the three, wheels that move in opposite directions. The old Mercury astronauts used to be put in a hanging chair, and then they'd swirl them all around different ways so that they could practice stabilizing the ship in a tumble, is what it was. Well, that's the same sort of action that goes around this thing, and it's got a big container of water, and I don't know all the details, but something has to do with argon gas gets sucked in, and then there's a field around it for containment, and then it projects an image outside, and that's where the argon comes in. It's the argon, and I think they've moved past that. But the feeling I got when I was reading about it, I'm sorry?
No, I had to leave for a second because we thought we heard knocking.
Yeah.
And I came back and I said, we're on the argons now. I said, oh, Jesus, here we go.
No, argon gas, not
well,
archons.
no,
okay. Archons. That's what I was thinking. My bad.
No.
My bad. I'm sorry.
No, the element, the argon, the noble gas. Okay.
Sorry, I wasn't thinking correctly.
It's okay.
It's okay. I stumble around because of my mind gets ahead of my mouth, and I just try to.
No, you're gravy.
All right. Well,
continue.
Liberty Thunder. Thanks for your call, buddy. I just want to pull in the next caller so we can get them ready with their mic. But
okay.
Any final thought?
If anybody has ever heard anything about this kind of experience in chat, please just chat about it, because it was definitely something in space, and then from there it sucked me into this dude's mind. It was so weird. So thank you.
Thanks for your call. Seriously,
I wish I had more for you.
Super good call.
Yeah, I wish I had more for you on that, but yeah, it's not the first time I've heard that sort of thing.
All right,
I have a question for Liberty. That was his name, correct?
Yeah. Well,
he's I know he's gone, but he was talking about that he was able to look through a gentleman's eyes.
Yeah,
correct?
see through someone else's eyes.
So it's like a walk-in, right?
Like a walk-in,
like we talked about yesterday, right?
We did talk about it last
night. So it's like
night.
this dude's able to do that, Liberty. So that's like a walk-in. I don't know if you heard the story yesterday, but check that out. I think it was on your podcast, right?
All right. Yeah, it was. Okay. All right. The next caller is Denise, good friend of the program. Denise, are you there? All right. While we're waiting for Denise to get her microphone ready, we're going to talk.
Let me say one other thing.
Okay.
That might shed a little bit of light on people who don't really get it yet. To not explore this sort of thing. Well, the Russians have been doing it forever. Okay.
Right.
They are friends. It's like, think about the Cold War. It would be like the Soviets building this huge nuclear arsenal, and us not building it because nuclear weapons are bad. Would that be a good idea to just not do it because it's no? It was peace through strength, mutual assured destruction.
Right.
You shoot at us, we'll either one of us will blow up the world 90 times.
Right.
So neither one pulled the trigger. It worked. It was the deterrent that worked.
Very true.
We're humans. We got to arm ourselves to the teeth and scare the hell out of the other party and hope that they have a rational thought.
I can see that.
Not to do it.
All right, so Denise
that's the thing I wanted to put up.
Looks like Denise has her microphone ready. Denise, are you there? Still not hearing anything, Denise. We're just gonna talk to the next caller. Caller with area code 757. You're on the air. Can we get your name?
Red Pill, reading you 5 by 5. How me over?
Good. Glad to have you on the program. What's going on?
Roger that. So my name's Brian, but my wife calls me Mr. Spectacular.
Welcome back, Mr. Spectacular.
Yeah, last night it was Mr. Amazing, but you told me to call back today.
Yep.
It's Mr. Humility tonight, bud.
Quick shout-outs to Methods and, iPod, Joe M, Space Shot, SGT, and everyone else in the movement. What's happening here with everything that's going on, legit, you guys are the news now. And it's absolutely amazing, but right in the beginning of the program, obviously there's a whole bunch of stuff where it was cutting in and out, but your guest mentioned that he was at the stoplight, and he said that this guy's not going to turn at the stoplight. And that actually reminded me of something back whenever, and this is, not to try to date myself too much, but before there was caller ID, the phone would ring at the house, and my dad had actually started a business out of our garage, working on, I don't want to get too specific, but it was canvas mainly for boats and awnings and stuff. Mm-hmm. But he legit started a company out of our house, and 99.9% of the calls coming to our home were for the business. And the phone would ring, and she'd be like, "Oh, that's for Brian, or that's for Dan, or whoever." And she was right every single time. But she wouldn't, if she didn't have this, I don't want to say premonition, but, for lack of a better term, but it was uncanny. It was literally uncanny. How
I think probably something about her wavelength was close to the wavelength that you need to be on. It's just a state of existence normal for her that's not normal for everybody else, because the wavelength, I guess, or whatever, is different. I really can't explain and put a finger on it, but I think it does have something to do with waves of some sort, just for a number of reasons. For instance, talking about going back to one of these other callers, the neurolinguistic person, there are certain frequencies that will put you at risk, and one of them is 60 hertz. A bus, you ever been on a bus trip and you just get real sleepy because of the hum?
I've actually captained boats, and I honestly think that it's the diesel motor. But yes, buses are a big part. But I'm not sure if you've ever been on boats that have just, either a single or twin engine diesel motors that really don't have very sound buffered engines. And sometimes those things, you're especially in docking maneuvers. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with this stuff, but when you're maneuvering, especially at lower speeds, and you're shifting one in forward and one in reverse, and you're literally kind of driving it like a tank, the RPMs are going to be different, and they're at the way that the cadence that those engines kind of hum at, for lack of a better term again. Yeah. Yes, it's almost, it can get very, very, very hypnotic. And
it's funny that you said that.
Shift on a boat, and you got a humming diesel, you'll fall asleep easily.
I was just going to say, it's funny how you said a diesel engine. I have two cats. One of them is named Cecil, because when he was a kitten especially, he had a very loud purr, Cecil, the diesel. And a cat's purr has been proven to be one of the most soothing sounds to humans in general. And it also happens to be, right around 60 hertz. Now, I know there's other frequencies that are higher than that and stuff, about, this 404 gigahertz frequency cures cancer, stuff like that, or whatever it is. The tuning fork thing, the resonant, whatever, there's some kind of a tuning fork thing that I was looking at. It was months ago, but if it's attuned to a certain frequency, it does something special, and I wish I could really tell you more about it, but maybe look around. it'll up on YouTube because it's on YouTube.
All right. Well, Mr. Spectacular, thank you for your call, bud. We got to move on to Denise because we've still got 12 people waiting behind you.
If you could just real quick discuss the real reason I actually called was the first one I was going to mention, Edgar Casey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with him, but he would fall asleep on a book and wake up the next day and know what the book was. And then obviously you know him telling the future, but he'd have people show up and they'd ask him about the future and, what horse is going to win. And anytime it was something nefarious, because he actually would fall asleep and, while he was sleeping, he would mention these things. And anytime someone was asking, something that was like personal gain, trying to get rich for themselves or whatever, he'd get these real bad headaches and he's actually get sick.
Mm-hmm.
So Edgar Casey was one. And then the other thing, I'm pretty sure every listener wants to know, what is Hillary and Obama doing in 3 years from now? Because that gives times for trials and the verdicts.
All right. Thanks for your call, Mr. Spectacular. I appreciate it.
Love you guys.
Love you too, brother. Peace. All right. Any thoughts there?
If I knew what was going to happen to him, I wouldn't be having to go and look at Q and all of this other stuff.
Absolutely. All right. Well, listen.
I just think there's too many permutations that are still, going on.
We've got 8 minutes left. I want to see if Denise has gotten her microphone yet. Denise, are you there?
I'm here.
All right. Excellent.
I'm here.
Glad you're back. What was your question or comment?
My comment, it's a comment really. Fascinating show. I love hearing about stuff like this.
Thank you.
I sent you a couple of messages. Children have invisible friends. I know my grandson sometimes, he'll be playing and he's talking away and then he looks either to his left or his right as though he's seeing somebody and talking to them. But I always was told that children have pure minds and they can see and hear things that we can't.
Yep. Yeah, they haven't been filled. They haven't been put exactly. They haven't had the filters put on them that society puts on them to shun that stuff away. And all those filters I didn't even know about until I got shot, and then in a second, and then I saw clearly, and that I had been lied to, and all this stuff my whole life about a lot of things that society does. That's true. My mother, and I don't even remember this, I was so young, but we'd go on car trips, and my mother would say I would talk to my sisters swinging from the trees as we would be driving by, on the highway. I don't remember doing it, but I was talking to my sisters that were swinging through the trees as we were going along. Who knows?
All right. Well, Denise, thank you so much for your call. I want to try to get to 2 more people before we close out the night.
Sure.
That's fine. Thank you.
Right. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
I need to say thank you to Social Observer, also Kathleen Harms for joining as a member. Social Observer asks, is Q an AI op utilizing quantum consciousness? I'm going to get your thoughts on Q here in just a moment. Informative Info says, glad you guys met up. Love the topic. Thank you for
What's up, big dog?
Yep, glad to see you here. Also, Son of a Green Card says, I work on large diesel engines and can confirm that something about that vibration will make you nod off faster than a 12-pack. All right. So just real quick, Ken, do you think that what do you think Q is? Do you think that it's it's an AI or not? And it doesn't have to be a long answer.
I know we're pressed for time. There is a very long answer to it, but I think yes, it could quite be AI, but I think it's actually Project Looking Glass.
Okay.
And there's more of an explanation to that. The short answer to that is if you put all the remote viewers in the world together, we wouldn't be able to come up with the things that they do.
All right.
Because remote viewing is good for some things. It's not good for like names, numbers, dates. So Q's coming up with names, numbers, and dates.
Yeah.
But something else is going on.
That's a good point. Ben Schwagel says, my friend's daughter had an invisible friend. It befriended her, then it turned on her and tormented her. It was a demon. That is scary stuff, Ben
That's pretty
Schwagel.
typical.
All right, so caller with the area code 201, you are next.
Turned on her and tormented her.
Go ahead and mute your stream so we can get you on the program. Be ready with your name when I unmute you in just a moment.
Go ahead and
Okay, caller, you gotta mute your audio. I'm going to the next one. Guest with 757 area code. Go ahead and mute your stream. I'm gonna unmute you. Caller, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have the stream muted in the background?
Yeah, I just turned it down.
Okay, yeah. Go ahead and turn it down. Can we get your name for the audience?
It's Kathy Good.
Kathy, thank you very much,
Yeah.
Kathy. I can still hear something going on in the background.
Probably TV.
Okay, turn your TV. Okay, Kathy, what's your question or comment for Ken?
I used to. I work at the Edgar Casey Center in Virginia Beach, and
Virginia Beach. Yep.
We've had several people here teach remote viewing, and I've attended a few classes, and a couple of my friends teach it. And I'm just going to comment that it's safe. Anyone can learn to do it. It's like a skill, learning to ride a bike, kind of.
Yep.
But that's my main thing. I just wanted people to realize that it's a safe skill. Anyone can learn. And
I'm going to learn to do it.
Yeah, my friend Steven Swartz, he teaches it. He has a course actually starting today at Opening to the Infinite. You can use it for long distance healing, checking in on relatives, helping with the police, but things like that. But
That's
a safe phenomenon.
Helping police is the thing that I find the most fascinating. All right, Kathy, thank you for your call. I do appreciate it. We got one more caller.
You're welcome. Have a good day.
Yep, you too.
Edgar Casey Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia.
Excellent. We're going to check it out. Okay, last caller of the night with the area code 201. Caller, are you there? Area code 201. Caller?
Are you there?
I'm here. Yes. Can we get your name for the audience?
Faithful Anon.
Faithful Anon. Well, welcome. Glad you're here. What was your question or comment?
Actually, I just wanted to say that just because Ken or a lot of people who have supernatural abilities, it doesn't mean that it's a demonic thing. The enemy has mastered all of these abilities for centuries, and we need to also embrace our abilities so we can fight them in every dimension.
Yes. I absolutely agree. Ken, you got a thought on that?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's true. It's kind of the same point I was making about the nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it so we better or we'll be dead.
Yeah.
It's really that simple. And I really apologize for talking over several callers. There's a little bit of a delay, and then everybody starts talking, and then everybody backs off at the same time. Try not to, but the thing is, I'll get something in my mind that they mentioned, and I don't hear something that I want to get out because I'll forget. I don't.
Ken, we're losing you, buddy. Your sound's kind of cutting out. Well, so hold that.
Can you hear me better?
I can hear you now, but Faithful Anon, thank you very much for your call. I appreciate it, you guys.
Just one more thing.
Go ahead.
I tried to connect with you guys 4 times. I had to pray over my phone in the name of Jesus Christ, and then I was able to connect.
Oh, wow. Well, I thank you for telling us. Obviously, we've had a lot of weird things going on this weekend, but all right. I appreciate your call.
That actually means to me.
Faithful?
God bless.
God bless you as well.
See ya.
We'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you.
God bless you.
All right. So, go ahead, Ken. Final thought?
Yeah, there's one thing that I wanted to note, and it's a big deal, and I'll put it real brief as I can. Word is that I hear, as far as the project Looking Glass is, and I think I may have told you this before in private, but all that is going on, they're using this chair to see the future or change events. How does that change the future, blah, blah, blah. Well, it turns out, and this is just what I'm hearing kind of the rumor mill, is that after December 21st, 2012, that date, that Mayan calendar date,
yes,
that nothing the deep state did differently had any effect on the outcome, and that's why we're looking at a movie. Q said we're watching a movie.
Yep.
In other words, the end is in. The end is done. it's already been done. We just have to go through the movie to see how it ends.
Absolutely.
But it's apparently set in stone now because
I like it.
of that.
Yeah,
I like that.
I like that as well. All right. Well, Ken, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on the program tonight. Thanks for helping us to understand, what remote viewing is and kind of get an idea of it. I'm sure we'll continue to talk off the air, and I hope you have a great night.
You too, and thanks to you and Thomas and everybody for the working through the technical glitches and getting me on and putting up with me.
Yeah.
No, you're gravy, man.
I appreciate your
great
perspective,
show.
Ken.
Thanks, dude.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk to you
Enjoyed
soon.
it.
Yes, sir.
Talk later.
Yep.
Bye-bye.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, you guys. So remember, this is spiritual warfare. We are also at World in the physical realm. We have special operators of all kinds who go out there and do the work that the rest of us can't or shouldn't do. So just keep that in mind because, like Faithful Anon said, this stuff is happening whether you like it or not, whether you believe it or not, and whether you agree with it or not. So we have people out there that are built and trained to do it. So I just need to say thank you to TikTok. He said, I used to be a 109A6 Paladin, and the motor at night will hum you to sleep like that. Things I dreamed of will make sense now. I'll just put it that way. And then lastly, Dana Finkler says, Hillary Clinton, the thick ankle dog face. All right, guys. I also want to say thank you to Thomas for accommodating me, for having me over this weekend, for doing these shows with me. Really do appreciate it, brother, and I've had a great time so far. Thank you for showing me around the city.
Yeah,
I also want to make sure that Hater Proof knows that we don't have any plans with anyone else in the next 24 to 48 hours.
No.
So certainly not going to be getting into anyone's SUV, or I don't even think we're going to go down a country road. But as always, thank you to the audience. Thank you to everybody who has helped out. And Faithful Anon says you must have Ken on again ASAP. Yep, we're going to definitely get Ken back on to discuss this in more detail. So
your Cozy Sunday show.
Yes, Cozy Sunday. Yeah, Comfy Sunday. Comfy Sunday tomorrow with Thomas, Methods, and I believe White Hat is going to be there as well. Also, Severe Anon is going to be joining us, and we're going to be premiering that video that he made for Methods. So, as always, this has been a Red Pill 78. Oh, wait. Special thank you to all the mods. Special thank you to my girlfriend. Special thank you to my mom. Thank you to everybody for being here. Lastly, EO2 Dave says, hi guys, just got here, thanks. Dave, thank you very much. Watch the replay. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.